Hello, hi, welcome. I'm Hazel Oddies, and I'm currently trying to finish these two Giratina Mimikyus because these are the last two Mimikyus that I need for orders that I got back in February, and I am basically in sewing hell with these. There's a lot of little pieces, like a lot of little pieces, like a lot of little pieces. But this one just needs the wings done, which is covered in fuzz, unfortunately, but I got all the spikes and little pieces sewn onto them, so I just need to defuzz them and then sew those two on. And then this one's actually in origin form, which has even more pieces. So the tail is done, and I got the wings in various pieces, and I still need to sew all the yellow spikes onto the sides like this one. And that's like the mouthpiece. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm desperately trying to finish these so I can finally take them to the post office, as well as the furt there that goes with the shiny one. So that's where I'm at. I want to get them done so badly. I was a fool for thinking that I could get them done over the weekend, because I definitely could not. I just started hand sewing this one yesterday, so, and this is what it looks like bald. So yeah, we'll see how much I actually get done today. I still have 3 more hours of work, so I will check in later and hopefully have more hand sewing done on this one, because I desperately want to get it done. And get this one done as well, which is just sewing on the wings, which shouldn't take too long, but still. That's where I'm at. And this is mostly where I left off from the last one, pretty sure. So, yeah. That is the goal of this video, is to finish both of these. And hopefully I finish before the weekend and I can do other stuff during the weekend. So, yeah. Yep. Okay, update. It's a little past 6 and I got all of these things on and the tails on. So, I'm going to do the head stuff, which is this, and the little crest, and then do the wings on both of them. And then take pictures and videos and hopefully package them up, get them sent out tomorrow. Alright, I finished these two last night at like 10 p.m. They're all done. So I can now finally package up the last 2 orders, and of course we can't forget the furrets. So I'm gonna get these 3 packaged up, get them sent to the post office, grab some food from somewhere, and then I need to work. I'm very glad these 3 are done though. This is such a relief. Okay, it's Saturday. I have not gotten too much done. That's like actual like plushie project process that I can show, but I got all of these done, which they were mostly done anyways. I just needed to wash off the stabilizer, and of course they're all covered in fuzz because that's just what happens. But these guys are now done. I finished sewing them when I was home for the holidays, and I just washed off the stabilizer last night, so they're all dry. I did also make this tiny little frog last time I was home. It still needs eyes, but like I'm trying to figure out what to do with scraps. I also have this ditto, which has beans in it. So yeah. But regardless, at least the Squid and Octo keychains are restocked. I still need more of the magnet versions, but I just need to embroider more of those. I'm not going to be doing that right now. And I also really need to figure out what to do with scraps. But as a fun little project for the day, I'm actually going to making a Stardew Valley chicken. So I have all the pieces cut out. This is a free pattern by Chloe Knight. You can get it on her website. I'm specifically going to make a blue chicken and going to time myself out and see how long this takes, see if it's good for markets and such. But also I also just really want a blue chicken for myself. So I'm gonna time myself, see how long it takes, start from finish, and hopefully it's something that's a bit cheaper that I can offer. I'm currently setting up the embroidery files, which I won't count in the time, but once I get to cutting out fabric and actually doing the sewing, I will. So, yay! That's what I'm gonna be working on today. Hopefully it doesn't take me more than a couple hours. Ideally, it'll only take me like an hour to do. So, we'll see if that actually happens or not. I'm gonna get set up first so that I can start doing this, make sure I have the instructions and everything out. Okay, so a little under 2 hours later, and we have a slightly deformed chicken. Obviously this is my first time doing the pattern. Still not sure why the head's all wibbly wobbly, possibly from the embroidery, or I messed up something when sewing. The wings, the, I guess, comb, and the tail are all sewn into the seams, which is something I'm not used to, and I definitely messed up, especially on the comb. It's supposed to be sticking straight up, not like that. And the tail I should have just hand sewn on regardless, because it definitely messed me up trying to sew around that. The chicken also just seems long for some reason. I don't know. Regardless, it's very cute. I'm happy to now have a blue chicken, but I probably will not be making this to sell. 2 hours is a bit much. I'd end up having to I'd probably have to sell it for like 30 to 40 bucks for it to feel worth it, and I'd have to get better at making it, because this is definitely not worth 30 bucks even. There's a lot of things wrong with it, so I think this guy is just going to get yeeted up into my bed and just join the rest of the plushies I have in the nest. Anyways, still a good pattern. I was definitely rushing it, but this isn't like a beginner pattern, but it is a good, like, more advanced pattern. Chloe Knight does also have more, like, simpler patterns, more beginner patterns, and the instructions and everything, those were great. I just, you know, you'll always mess up a tiny little bit the first time you try doing anything. Or, you know, test anything new, essentially. It takes a bit of practice, especially with something a bit more complicated. But regardless, if I took more time and or did more hand sewing, it would have been fine. Still a good pattern. Would also recommend their other patterns. I'll leave a link in the description. They have tons of free patterns on their website, so would highly recommend it. Okay, Sunday I've decided is pattern making day. So what I have here is I have Dedenne, Sandshrew, and Porygon Z specifically. And I have a medium, like, base Mimikyu here to use to test the patterns. As for this though, the Sandshrew, the Kanto Sandshrew, because I also have an Alolan ear here, both of these are from the Abra, and I know that this works and that it will be the right size, shape, and whatever once it's sewn and stuffed. So I didn't actually need to print this out and test it. It's already tested. I just did not realize earlier. I do, however, need to test the ear for the Alolan because it needs to go like that, kind of ish. I think it might be a little bit off, but that's why we're testing it. It should work the same way as the Clefairy ear, but we'll see. As for Dedenne, any flat pieces, I just cut them out on paper and just stick them on and see if they work. So I can just add a pin to this really quickly, just carefully pin it. And yeah, I think that should work. Yeah, it looks less like a Wooper and more like a Dedenne with the ears. I think that will work. I will still test the ears because the shape might change a tiny bit once it's stuffed. And then I'm also going to test the tail once it's stuffed. I feel like this might be a bit too big, but I'll still test it and we'll see. It really does look like a Wooper like this. And then Sandshrew will test, and then Porygon Z is basically just a giant bill. The tail, which goes on the back here, and then a little point on the top. So I need to test all that because all those will change shape with stuffing. I might have to add a dart to the tail, for example. I might have to make the point bigger. So I'm gonna use some like cheaper Minky that I have, trace and cut all these out and see what works, see what doesn't work. And I'm testing it in medium size because that's the smallest size I have. So if it works in a medium, it will work at a larger size, and also it just helps save fabric because I don't want to be using a ton of fabric to test the Mimikyus because I need to test a lot of Mimikyus. So I'm starting with these three first, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so here's Dedenne. I do think it works. First thing is that this is sticking out of the cheeks, not just the side of the head. The ear also needs to end in a point, and then it lays like on the side of the head instead of like sticking like straight out. It needs to be sort of like tilted backwards. And then the tail, I think I'm just gonna make the tail a tiny bit thinner. Otherwise, I think it's a good size and shape. So I'm gonna say Dedenne is good to move on to the next stage. Which is basically making the embroidery files so that I can actually make the actual mon. Oh, look at the little ear all down. Oh, that's cute. But Dedenne is good, so that is great. Alright, here's Sandshrew's. I think it'll look better once it's sewn because this side needs to be sewn so that it's a bit flatter, and this side needs to be sewn so that it's a bit rounder. I think it will work. I also think it needs to be up a bit higher on the head, but I do think that the shape will work. I did edit it just a tiny bit already, but I'm confident enough that this will work. Sandshrew is mostly in the embroidery and basically adding a bunch of lines to it anyways, so I'm confident enough that this will do just fine, and I'm going to move it on to the next stage. And finally, here's Porygon Z. I do think I'm going to make this like a bit more like curved and make this just a bit bigger and make the tail a bit longer and a bit pointier, but otherwise I'm like confident enough that I don't have to test this again Yeah, just make that a bit bigger, change the shape of that a little bit, and change the shape of that a little bit, and I think it'll do good. I may or may not have started a new project. Yarn rug, which, what is this called? Like, latch hook, I think? This is only like an hour's worth of work, and that was also measuring out how much I actually needed and figuring out how to do the latch hook thing, which it's not that hard. But, yeah. Regardless, I do think this is where I'm going to call it a night and call it for this video. So thank you for watching. I know I didn't get much done this week, but, or no, wait. I finished the Mimikyus this week, didn't I? Oh my gosh, it feels like it's been longer than that. Well, anyways, hope you enjoyed, and